What up, football fans? It is Tuesday, December 11th. Oh, shit. What up, football fans? It is Tuesday, December 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which means it is time for the Audible. My name is Jimmy the Bag, and I'm sitting beside, as always, the legend, Donnie Rightside. Donnie, I'm coming off a pretty good weekend, pretty good week of NFL. I went 11-8. I was thankful to have tripled up on the Giants. I had them first half full game and the Redskins team total under. 11-8, not too bad. Donnie, over there, love working with you on this show. How you feeling today?
Doing good. Hey, Tuesday show's fun because we start to crack that book on the new week in the NFL. You know, Monday's usually recapping, watching film, or seeing what went wrong or talking about it. Now we can actually flip the page and start digesting some of this new info. And that was a great call, by the way, because I know, us as gamblers, you see like, oh my goodness, like really, I put all these plays in this one game and Odell Beckham's going to sit this football game out on me. And you couldn't have been any more correct on that football game. A whitewash from the opening kickoff to the closing bell. Great pick by you on that.
You know what? Generally, you are leading me to glory. That was one time where I went on my own, but you have just working with you is an enormous asset to my action. And again, we found unders. We found a whole bunch of opportunities. I got pretty fortunate in a couple spots. I got fortunate on the Chargers first half team total over with that Badgley 59-yarder. I got fortunate on the double with the Cowboys over and covering. Yeah. I got fortunate there, but those happen, and it felt very good. Why not, before we give a heads up to all our great cappers that work with us here in the chat, why don't you throw up my record, Rafa, for transparency and accountability reasons. There it is right now, plus 7.6 units, a little better than I was last week, 4.6 ROI. I will take it. Big shout out to all the guys we're rolling with. We got Ninja 13, Abba Zaba, Blaze Edwards, Steve Murrin, Ryan Gosling, Theodore McIntosh, Easy Pickin' Shaking Back, Buffo on the Beat, Dexter Rojas, good looking group, and Need for Tips joining us, the great Alex. What a treat to have him rolling with us. Okay, let's get to work. Donnie, we have a big Thursday night matchup. Let's spend a little bit of extra time on this game as it is a big one. We have Chargers at Chiefs. Chargers 5-1 on the road, going up against the Chiefs, who are 6-0 at home. Open Chiefs -3.5. Now you can get -3s at -125 or -3.5s across the board. Total opened at 56.5, and it's gone way down. Couple 52.5s, mostly 53s. Chiefs are coming off a hard-fought 27-24 overtime win versus the Ravens. I should have jumped with you on both your plays on that game. I got scared late, but Ravens and the under both would have come through. Mahomes threw for 377 yards, 2 scores. Tyreek Hill caught 8 passes for 139 yards. Kelsey had another big game, 7 catches for 77 yards. Chris Jones got another sack. He has at least one in the Chiefs' past 9 games. First player with a sack in at least 9 consecutive games in a single season since the stat became an official statistic in 1982. Now we got some injury stuff we're going to be talking about. We're not going to get another chance to look at this game. So we have Spencer Ware, didn't practice today. Finished Sunday's game against the Ravens, so his absence is still considered precautionary. We have Tyreek Hill, who returned to practice. Hill said Andy Reid said that Hill's moving around all right, should be okay for Thursday. Sammy Watkins and Eric Berry were inactive. Chargers are coming off a very underwhelming 26-21 win at home over the Bengals. Whale Capper broke down this game in a very, very nice way on our Friday show. I mentioned how I was fortunate to hit that first half team total over. Chargers scored 2 touchdowns on their first 2 drives and then did very little else. 160 yards of offense on those 2 drives and then just 128 rest of the game. Eckler rushed for 66 yards on 15 carries with Melvin Gordon missing his second straight game. And now Austin Eckler is going to be out because he's in concussion protocol. So we're going to see a lot of Justin Jackson. You have taught me a lot on how to handle these Thursdays, Donnie, and simplifying things with the home team or nothing. Do you feel any different in this Chargers-Chiefs spot this coming Thursday?
Nothing changes different. And what a bad break you got if you're looking at taking the Chargers from last week. I mean, Austin Eckler literally got hurt on the last play of the game, which was an onside kick, took a shot going after the football. Now he's going to sit that out. Jackson looked like he showed some signs of life a couple weeks ago versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, but you're heading in here without Melvin Gordon, who you hoped would be back, or at least Austin Eckler that could carry the flag for you. Now you're going to be leaning on a younger running back in a tough environment. Let's not forget, Jimmy, Arrowhead is loud. So when you say, well, how can that actually affect their running back in this point? The problem with that is he's going to be having an expanded role, Jimmy, lining up, clock's running down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Phillip Rivers barking orders, and he either A, can't hear or isn't sure of the play call, so he picks up the wrong guy on a blitz. That could lead to a sack or turnover. That is a major advantage because when you have younger running backs, it's not that they can't play. It's not that they're good running the ball or they can catch the ball. It's actually being in the moment of the plays and knowing your playbook and knowing exactly how to pick up some exotic fronts and blitzes. So that's going to be a key ingredient, but nothing changes for me this year, last year, the year before. It's Thursday night football. Build a case where you like the Chiefs in this environment or just move on with your money. I like the Chiefs here. If Tyreek Hill can play, which it looks like he's going to do, Patrick Mahomes has been amazing. Now, this doesn't say any sleight of hand, anything, Jimmy, against the Chargers. The Chargers are a really good football team, and they're built to win on the road. Great pass rush, good coaching staff, veteran quarterback that's going to put you in the right positions here. But it's a short work week for them. And I think there's a bigger picture because I'm not so sure they can win this football game even if it was on a Sunday and they played it versus Kansas City in Kansas City. I think the Chargers might be looking more down the road saying, look, we might have lost this battle, but the war is going to take place in the playoffs. Let's get healthy and let's re-up because when the Chargers are healthy, which they should be heading into the playoffs, they're going to be a terror, Jimmy.
They are, but they're missing big pieces on the defensive side of football that aren't coming back this year. You still feel without Merriman at the linebacker, Lugit at the front of the defensive line, you still think they're going to be fine moving forward? Or those?
Yeah, I mean, Denzel Perryman was a huge loss. Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you there. That was a huge loss. You lose your quarterback of the defense, one of your playmakers in the middle, but they sort of almost get that, like, almost a trade-off because Bosa comes back right at that same time. The ultimate equalizer in the NFL is to get a good pass rush because that makes the rest of your team, hey, look, if the quarterback doesn't have 3 seconds to stand back there and those guys are getting pressure on the outside, that's going to help it out a lot more. Derwin James has been good. They got some good cornerbacks. They should be okay. I just think it's such a tough spot. And I think the NFL would have a do-over again. They wouldn't have had this game on Thursday night. They'd have pushed it back to Sunday where maybe these guys could have been rested and ready. It's a tough one. You're going to get some weather conditions in this football game. It opened up at, 56, Jimmy? I'm seeing like 52 and a halves out there. And that's a product of A, the short work week, B, some weather conditions, and C, these teams are banged up. Let's not forget also on Sunday, Jimmy, the Chiefs had to go to overtime against one of the most physical football teams in the NFL. That's going to weigh on them. So, I mean, there's a lot of components going into this, but you do get the added advantage. You're home on a Thursday, and in the NFL, that's just not fair.
DT Doug says Chargers are great on the road because they play 16 games. Couple people,
that's a good point.
People liking the Chargers in this spot, which is a very difficult thing to do on Thursday nights. Fred Cantu says Phillip Rivers finds ways to win. Do you think that the Chiefs might be an actual bet that you will make this week, or are you still taking some time to digest the injury situation?
Yeah, no, I don't really think the injury is going to be that bad. It's one of those things, Jimmy, where if you can step in and not pay a lot of juice on the 3, I just think Kansas City's going to win this football game because they're at home. And I think Kansas City's in that added advantage saying they can see the finish line. Like they need to just win and they need to take care of business because they need that home number 1 seed. And I think the Chargers are on the opposite saying, look, let's not get any injured here. It's no shame if we lose this game. We can rebound. We're going to make the playoffs. And as long as we're healthy, that gives us the best shot to make a run at the Super Bowl championship. And I think that's where their head's at. So I think the motivational spot is a lot more for the Chiefs because they do not want to relinquish that top number 1 seed. They want to keep that there because it's such an advantage heading in. And I think the Chargers already know they're in the playoffs, and it's a steep hill to climb to get that number 1 spot away from Kansas City.
We saw a good defense look ridiculously bad last Thursday. This is another situation where 3 days to prepare. You talked about the Chiefs going up in a very tough game against the Ravens. The Chargers in an underwhelming spot there against the Bengals. Quite surprised to see how poor they actually played after those first 2 drives. You did mention that you did understand the movement on the total down to 53 or 52.5. Is there an angle you see on that right now? Because it seems pretty low for the amount of offense that we see on Thursday.
You're right. It's hard because, it's actually interesting, Jimmy, which we get our stuff because sometimes they could jump a line or not. The line comes out at 56, and I'm sitting here myself, and I'm saying, I've been burned by quite a few unders this year when I preach not to take them, but even some really good spots to say this is a great under. And I was like, you know what? I know the value is going to be here on under 56 because when the first thing you see when it comes out, what do? You check some weather, rainy, windy, snow in the forecast. That's an ultimate downgrade because when they make the line, they're not necessarily looking at weather a week ahead of the time. They're putting it out what their algorithm says based on these two teams playing football in a sterile environment. It's 56. So you knew it was going to gain some. And then you see as the week goes on, running backs are out, wide receivers are banged out, a division game, which both these teams really want to win. So you tend to play it a little bit closer to the vest, and it's on a Thursday, so you don't get time to prepare. But you're right. In the back of my head, I go, well, let me look at the scores that these teams play up against. And I start scratching my head going, I'm going to be really angry with myself when I say I'm the idiot that took the under in a Kansas City Chiefs ball game. You know what I mean? That enters into the equation. But just for a value purpose, I can see the under even at 52 because you're going to give me cold wind and some rain and maybe some snow with banged up football teams in the division that usually lends to be a lower scoring type game. But I've been burned so many times where I just scratch my head going, I can't believe what's going on out there.
And there's a lot of people coming in about the weather, 70% chance of showers. Crypto Boss saying rain and maybe snow with winds. Is that the reason? Another reason why the market's knocking this?
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. As soon as the public's going to see some wind and some rain in the forecast with a total in the mid 50s, you're automatically saying, look, all I need is like a slip here, a drop here, a missed field goal, and I got this total. So I can see it, and that's probably primarily the reason that it's dropping.
My man Johnny Redbeard joining us. I follow him on Twitter. Got a chance to hang out with him at IFBC in Vegas. Absolutely loved it. Great football capper. Says much thanks to Donnie on that Kansas City under last week. Got that early line in the week. A mistake by not jumping on that myself. And he says, Jimmy, Donnie, what's up? Absolutely love this KC. Grabbed a -3. Might sprinkle a little on the money line. By the way, one of the best weekends ever in NFL. Absolutely destroyed it. Love this goddamn show. And we love you, Johnny Redbeard. Let's move on to the Saturday games here. They're not going to be cutting these out. I believe, let me just make sure that they're not cutting these two out. Dolphins, Vikings. No, they're not. So let's start with these two Saturday games. Exciting to have some Saturday football. First off, we'll go with Texans at Jets. Open Texans -6.5, now -6s, but you can still find a 6.5. Total open at 41.5, pretty much still there, although there are a couple 41s on the board now. Texans are coming off having their 9-game winning streak snapped, 24-21 home loss to the Colts. Houston's usually very tough pass rush was pretty much neutralized. They did get 2 sacks from Watt and Covington after being held without a sack against Cleveland last week. It was a very interesting game. A banged-up T.Y. Hilton destroyed that Texans secondary for 199 yards. Watson had 267 yards passing, 35 yards rushing, but Hopkins was held to 36 yards on 4 catches. Going to the Jet side of things, Crowell only got in 4 snaps against the Bills after re-aggravating his toe injury. Elijah McGuire came in, 40 snaps, 17 carries, looked okay. Texans also say that Kiki Kute will trending towards playing. The Jets snapped their 6-game losing streak. Impressive 27-23 win at Buffalo. Darnold's first fourth quarter comeback. Darnold finished 16 for 24, 170 yards. McGuire finished with 60 yards. Darnold is fine in practice so far this week. But they have a banged-up offense with Enunwa not practicing, Trent Cannon out of the lineup. Texans at Jets. This is a big road favorite. Donnie, what are you thinking?
This is interesting because when you look at it, you would think that the Houston Texans would be able to rebound. But look, we're still dealing with some short work weeks here, Jimmy. When we talk about like some teams playing on Monday night and then playing on Sunday, this is the same effect. Some of these teams playing on Sunday now going to come to play on Saturday. So you lose one less day of recovery, one less day to prepare, and you got to travel a day earlier to go on the road. Should Houston win this game? Absolutely. But when you're trying to take a look at what they're actually supposed to do, win by a touchdown on the road, hasn't happened too frequently here, Jimmy, and I'm not even sure if it's actually happened at all. Open the season 2 road games. They lost both of those. They go to the Indianapolis Colts. They won by 3. That was that weird Frank Reich, 15 seconds left in the game going for it for no reason instead of taking a tie. That gifted them that victory by 3 points. They win at Jacksonville. That's the one game, 20-7, that they handled by double digits. They go to Denver, which is a nice win, but again, Jimmy, 19-7. They go to Washington, a nice win again, but 23-21. And they're in that interesting predicament here, which I always like, where you get comfortable. You saw what Houston did the last 3 weeks. They ended up losing a game to Indianapolis. But let's not forget, home Tennessee, home Cleveland, home Indianapolis. They haven't been on the road for damn near a month by the time they lace them up and play the New York Jets. That should play into it a little bit. It's a Saturday night game. I don't want to say sleepy environment because the Jets fans will be out there. The Jets stole one versus the Buffalo Bills, didn't play very well, and actually ended up winning that football game. But here's the problem. You're going to have a rookie quarterback. They're going to have a good pass rush, so to speak, from the Houston Texans. The issue is going to be is all three running backs missed practice today. So number 1, 2, and 3, will they even be able to show up in this game and give enough offense for the New York Jets? But the MO of the Houston Texans is, I think they're going to win this game. I think it might be closer, as Lee Corso would say, than the experts think here. If you're asking them to win by more than a touchdown on the road, it's hard enough to win on the road, and they've only done it one time this year so far.
I like that lean quite a bit. Feel very uncomfortable with big road favorites. What do you think of this total? Very low at 41.
It is a low total, and I think the low total is deserving of that because when you're looking from Houston, they should be a more electric team. And what I mean by that, you don't have to be like the Rams and the greatest show on turf, but they have everything at every level, Jimmy, that you want. You have a dominant top 5 wide receiver. You have a competent wide receiver veteran, Demaryius Thomas, on the other side. If they get Kiki QT back, that's a nice little slot receiver. They have a running back that can break home runs. They have a quarterback that has a big-time arm and can elude the sack. But sometimes they don't put it all together. 29 points versus Cleveland, 21 versus Indianapolis. Nice game versus Tennessee, 34. But 23 against Washington, 19 against Denver. I think they're in playoff mode at this point. And what I mean is, they know this is a business trip, right? Not like, hey, we're just going to go up there. We're going to let it fly and see what happens. They're going to play really good defense in this game. They're not going to put their offense in a bad spot to say, you know what, we're going to give up 3 points to the Jets. I see Houston winning this football game on the road, but I think it's going to stay close. And I think if you're leaning toward a game, which again, it's hard for me to take under 41s in the NFL because they seemingly go over time and time again. It should play to an under type total, but that doesn't really matter in the NFL anymore.
It doesn't, and we have a couple low totals here, and we hit some overs on low totals last week very easily, especially in the Bills-Jets game, which was a very easy play that I'm now have my eyes open to it thanks to capping these games with you. We have some great additions to our cappers in the chat. Big Man on Campus is with us. We got Underdog, Jimmy Legg, Sacktown King, Anna Merrick. This is great. Let's keep rolling right along. I'm looking forward. We're going to be able to bang this game out again on Friday, but a slight lean, I would say, to the Jets being able to cover this big spread, a slight lean, and we'll keep working on it as we get more information on injuries moving forward. Let's move on to Browns at Broncos. Open Broncos -4.5, now -3s across the board. Total opened at 42.5. And then 45.5s immediately across the board, except that Pinnacle and the Greek, who are still hanging at 45. Browns coming off a big 26-20 home win over the Panthers that was expertly broken down by our Dan Kelly, who liked the Browns in that spot and had them and won with them. He's got a great read on the Browns. Browns are now 3-2 under Greg Williams. Needed 5 games to do what Hugh Jackson could, to tie Hugh Jackson in 2+ seasons. Mayfield, 18 for 22, 238 yards, 1 TD. I really liked the game he played, very composed. Broncos coming off an ugly 2014 loss at San Francisco. What a terrible few days it is for this franchise. Case Keenum couldn't find any rhythm with anybody, with Emmanuel Sanders gone with the Achilles tendon in practice on Wednesday, Achilles tendon injury. Von Miller looked good. Bradley Chubb's looking very good. 2 more sacks to get to 12. Yidam suffered a shoulder injury. Cortland Sutton has a thigh injury, was nowhere to be found. Case Keenum has no weapons. Should the Broncos be a favorite anymore? I mean, it's so much changed in 1 week, Donnie. Am I going too hard on this? I just feel like Broncos are a bad team all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, you're still going to take into effect that they're still alive for a playoff spot, so there'll be motivation there. It's a rookie quarterback going on the road, playing in elevation for the first time. Still a tough environment, but I don't think you're far off in this one because if we just forget about the defenses, if we look at the offenses, which offense would you rather have right now? A young rookie quarterback with Baker Mayfield with a good running game and some wide receivers that are actually waking up and making plays for him at this time? Or would you rather have Case Keenum, that non-gunslinger with no weapons really? I mean, he's got Cortland Sutton out there but he's a young player. This team is stripped down. It's that same effect, Jimmy, that we look at the Detroit Lions where you try to take the season stats as a whole and you say, wait a minute here. Like, we're down Emmanuel Sanders, and we're also down a lot of linemen, and we're also down Demaryius Thomas on offense. That's going to take a major downgrade. So when you say, hey, look, they can throw the ball pretty well, or they did this or that, throw that all out the window because this offense is completely different and all of a sudden completely dependent on Phillip Lindsay at running back, who's another young kid, but he's played very well. If you're going to give me 3 points or 3.5 points in this game, this is basically a coin flip because, and again, when you're looking at the Denver Broncos, it's usually a massive home field advantage that you're going to have. But looking at some of the numbers when you go over them, 3-3 at home this year, just straight up against, and forget about the number, just straight up. And then when you take a look at the games recently at home, Pittsburgh Steelers, they did 24-17 winner, lost to Houston in a close one. The Rams lost to the Rams in a close one. Kansas City lost to them in a close one. So the MO was there. They beat Oakland 20-19 and Seattle 27-24. So if they're winning football games even at home, Jimmy, when they were healthy and ready to go in the beginning of the season, they weren't big wins that they were looking at or even close losses at this point. I think Cleveland's got a lot to play for in this one. If you're going to give me points, I'll probably lean on Cleveland here.
I think so as well. They just have a good vibe about them right now. Mayfield's leading that charge, but Nuclear Skull likes the Broncos as one of his best picks of the week. But going down to the other cappers, Crypto Boss says Browns all day. Sacktown King, I kind of lean Browns. Theodore McIntosh says Browns on the road is suspect. Broncos home field is a truth advantage. Eddie Euler, lean Broncos because of Denver's D at home. Greg 007 says Broncos are pretty banged up, hoping Baker wakes up feeling dangerous. I'm leaning Browns. Odar Lira, our great friend from Venezuela, says seems like a low-scoring game in this Browns-Broncos. Seems like a low-scoring game, but this market's been bet up 3 points. What do you think of this total, Donnie, going from 42.5 to 45.5?
Yeah, it's interesting that it's been bet up a couple points. Look, I like the Cleveland offense. I think it's good. But when you're looking at the Denver Broncos and what they want to do now, they're not exactly going to push the issue because since they've been getting injured and trading their players away, the Houston game, 19-17, the Charger game, 23-22, Pittsburgh, 24-17, Cincinnati, 24-10, San Francisco, 20-14. I think the Denver Broncos understand that it's not to their benefit to get in shootouts. They just want to say, let's let our pass rush handle it. Let's see if we can play some defense. We're at home and force a rookie quarterback into some mistakes. Let's let them make the mistake as opposed to us push the issue. Because even though Cleveland doesn't have a very good defense, this isn't a type of offense that can exploit a bad defense. Who are we going deep against? And let's not forget also, what a nice win by the Cleveland Browns last week at home versus the Carolina Panthers on a goal line stand without your best cornerback, Denzel Ward, who's probably going to be back in this game and can match up against your number one, which would be Cortland Sutton. So now if you have a good cornerback matching up against your number one threat, who are we going to here for the Denver Broncos to sort of push this ball down the field?
I agree. I'm pretty hesitant with the total at this point, but I agree. I think the Browns are something to look very closely to right now. Scotty Rock Forever says Broncos have no receivers. Browns get the win. Book that. Jimmy Legg says, can the Browns really win back-to-back? They can. This is a different team. They don't have Hugh Jackson listening to smooth jazz on his headphones on the sidelines. They have a coach who's coaching out there. I think this is a different team. Right now, I'm leaning towards the Browns, and I love having a few days to plan this out before we move forward with our action. And that's another thing I've been doing, Donnie, for the last little while is I've been waiting until Saturday morning to put in my action, which I think has actually helped me in the long run because I wake up thinking very clear Saturday morning, and we've done all the work throughout the week. If there's a line I'm really trying to beat, I will do it, but I'm finding the lines sharper as the season goes on and a little bit more difficult to do that. Although we do have some wild movement, market movement in a couple of these games. Crypto Boss says Chris Harris is a big injury for them. It sure is. Let's move on to Dolphins at Vikings, and we'll spend a little bit of extra time on this game. Open Vikings -8, now -7s across the board. Total open to 44.5, and it stayed. Vikings on a short week after that disappointing 21-7 loss at Seattle last night. Minnesota twice had scoring chances in the fourth quarter, but could not get the job done. The Viking secondary held Wilson, one of the worst passing games of his career, but Seattle's ground game ate them up. Seattle finished with 214 yards rushing, 90 from Carson. Minnesota fell to 0-6 when allowing its opponents to run for at least 100 yards. Seattle had 136 yards rushing in the first half. Now the Vikings have done things about that. They fired John DeFilippo, fired the offensive coordinator on Tuesday, brought up Kevin Stefanski, who, as we're told, was someone that Shermer tried to bring with him when he went to the Giants. So Stefanski is somebody that they have a lot of hope in and believe in him. And the Dolphins coming off the miracle comeback over the Patriots. Frank Gore turning back the hands of time. 92 yards rushing, 24-yard catch. Tannehill, 14 for 19, 265 yards, 3 scores, and no turnovers. He's won 9 straight home starts, but this is not one of them. This is on the road where the Dolphins are 1-5 away. -7 points for the Vikings. What are you thinking here, Donnie?
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting because when you have usually a emotional high, you're due for a letdown. But there's a certain different occasion when you're looking at, that we finally beat our, arch enemies. But this is something that the Miami Dolphins have done quite a bit over the years, is beat the New England Patriots and beating them in a game that they probably thought they were going to lose at the end. I think they can ride that streak here in the Minnesota, because now you're looking at the Miami Dolphins with a legitimate shot, technically, to get into the playoffs or make a run at that 6th seed, which they're every bit into it with the Ravens out there, with the Indianapolis Colts. So there's a lot of teams vying for that same sub. Tennessee Titans in that mix as well. And the one thing I hate to get in front of, because you had Monday Night Football. So again, we talk about a little bit of a short week for Minnesota. Minnesota should be much better at home. They're going to play in their own environment. I still think the Minnesota Vikings are going to get into the playoffs just by default. I don't think Carolina Panthers are going to be able to beat, the New Orleans Saints twice. I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles this Sunday night are going to be able to beat the Los Angeles Rams, and maybe not even beat the Houston Texans. So I think by default, the Vikings are going to get that 6th seed. So I think this is one of those leveling weeks. They fire their offensive coordinator. They bring up the quarterback coach, which is going to have some new ideas, which usually elevates the room, because there had to have been something wrong there. When you talked about the Cleveland Browns, where they get rid of Hugh Jackson, sometimes you're taking away, it's addition by subtraction. Say, let's remove the problem from the room, even if it isn't a problem, but it's perceived to be a problem. Let's get some clear thoughts. Hey, guys, look, we just lost this football game. It's still a clean slate. We're still first place here, not first place, excuse me. We're still in the running here in first for the 6th place in the wild card position to make the playoffs. Let's see what we can do. So it's one of those weeks where you say, you know what? I think Minnesota's going to win this football game, but Miami's going to be game. If you're looking at an offense that Minnesota is struggling, you're asking them now to cover 7 points. They haven't even been able to win football games. And last night probably should have gotten shut out in that football game, not against a world-beating defense that Seattle was maybe 5-6 years ago. That's a defense that can be had by the air, and they couldn't do anything with it. So if this line, I agree with the movement down from 8 to 7, I'm still looking at the Dolphins getting a touchdown this game, because I think they'll be live. I think they'll be competitive, and something's just not right with the Minnesota Vikings right now. Do I think the Vikings should win this game? Yes. Do I think they will win it? Absolutely. But I think the Dolphins are going to be live in here to keep this game close.
Very interesting breakdown. Theodore McIntosh says Dolphins on the road are not something I want to invest in, especially off an emotional win. Greg 007 says Vikings are so disappointed this year, and this point spread is too high. I'm leaning Dolphins. Do you have any feel on this total that's opened at 44.5 and stayed?
Not too much on feel. I mean, look, the way the Miami Dolphins have been playing, I mean, you probably would lean, as long as Tannehill's healthy in this game with his ankle, they're probably going to be able to put up some yards. But it's a tough one, because you're asking Minnesota right now that just because they fired their offensive coordinator, all of a sudden find an offense. Jimmy, let's even go back. Let's just take a quick 5-game synopsis. 24 points versus Detroit, which you scored a touchdown on defense. You go play the Chicago Bears, you scored 20 points in that game. Green Bay, you scored 24 points. New England, you scored 10, and you scored 7 last week. It's hard for me to just say, yep, they're just going to find their rhythm and rip over that total right now. So, I mean, again, it's 44.5. It's not a high number, but I need to see something out of Minnesota before I'm like, you know what, let's get after it, because they're playing really good defense. They know they have a good defense, and their offense just isn't clicking right now. So I don't really like the over in this one.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about how bad they've looked lately, and just a new offensive coordinator can't change things instantly. Eddie Euler says Dolphins have allowed 29.5 points against on the road. Does that make it more appealing to back the Vikings or to back them?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. And you know what's going to be interesting? Let's see if Xavier Howard gets back in this game, your number 1 overall cornerback. They have Minka Fitzpatrick's been really good, but if you're going to be down a cornerback, maybe an extra week to get healthy, because I talked about it a couple times today already. Just something not right now. Thielen with that calf injury, back injury. Stephon Diggs every week. Is he getting his knee drained? Is he not? It's pretty clear that these guys aren't 100% right just yet. And I'm waiting for it to snap out of it, where maybe this week you have a new game plan. We're going to take more shots down deep, and the wide receiver's like, you know what? It's the first week in a couple weeks. I feel really good. That could be exposed, because in the past couple weeks, something like, oh, Thielen's only got 3 catches for 20 yards. I mean, there's something wrong with these guys. These guys just don't go into a hole and say, you know what? Stephon Diggs, not explosive anymore. Adam Thielen can't get open anymore. That's not the case. These guys are banged up, and when they're healthy, you might get a real look at it, which may be this week.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun game to continue capping throughout the week. Got a nice little battle happening on our chat. 2 cappers whom I love. Ooh. Big Ragu and Scotty Rock going back and forth on the Browns. Broncos. Rock likes the Browns. Ragu likes the Broncos. Interesting stuff. Let's move on to the Raiders at Bengals and spend as little amount of time as possible on this game. Open Bengals -3.5. Now we have -3s across the board. Now, just because they're bad football teams, I should probably take that back. Doesn't mean we can't find an angle to make money. and there's nothing more important than making money, and making money makes games enjoyable. Bengals are coming off an impressive 26-21 loss at the Chargers, but it was a real bad spot for the Chargers. Mixon, though, actually starting to look like his old self. Looks like the guy we saw at the beginning of the year, 111 yards on 26 carries. Driscoll looked okay, 18 for 27, 171 yards and a touchdown. Raiders are coming off a shocking 24-21 win at home over the Steelers. Carr threw 2 fourth-quarter touchdown passes for the Raiders. 16th career fourth-quarter comeback. Threw for 322 yards. He's looking much better. Raiders at Bengals. The total opened up at 46.5. There are 46s across the board, but Pinnacle's hanging a 45.5. Donnie, Raiders at Bengals.
Yeah, two really poor teams coming into this one. I mean, Cincinnati just can't get out of their own way, and Oakland just somehow rises up, knocks Ben Roethlisberger out of the game. Mike Tomlin makes a few key errors with the clock, and looks like we have a nice little victory for Oakland. I don't really know how much either one of these teams wants to actually win this football game due to some draft position coming in. But the one thing I think we can lean on both sides in this game, Jimmy, two really bad defenses out there. So if the temperatures aren't going to be 35, which doesn't look like they are, I was just checking some updates there about maybe mid-40s there, not much precipitation, not much windy conditions, both of these teams should open it up. But then when you say, wait a second, open it up. Cincinnati has Driscoll at quarterback. Mixon's a really good running back. Not a ton out on the outsides, but I think both of these teams will play a little bit loose. I don't see a staunch defensive effort, maybe throw in a special teams or a defensive touchdown. I don't really like this side necessarily, but the one thing I know I'm not doing, Jimmy, is taking the Raiders on the road with less than 3 points or 3 points or less, because that means you're saying, hey, Donnie, we're expecting not only the Raiders to compete, but probably win this game outright on the road. That's something I don't want to actually get involved with. If I'm looking at this game right now early in the week and we don't have to spend a lot of time with, give me the over and probably give me Cincinnati here, just because we're looking at a 3-point line where I don't trust the Raiders on the road. I don't think they can win this game on the road.
Yes, I agree. And I know I say that too much when I'm doing a show with you, but I agree. I don't feel comfortable taking the Raiders. I don't really feel comfortable with a side here. I wonder if the over is the play here. Underdog says Jimmy's voice cracking like both defenses will. Over in Oakland. You want to see my voice cracking? You should have seen me at Tango, India this weekend. My voice cracked a couple times. This is interesting, Donnie. The over is an interesting hang. Looking forward to bang this game out all week on our respective shows. Check out Donnie's show, Right Side of Campus, and my show, Low Shack in the Bag. We'll be hammering these games, and we will come back on Friday with angles that we like. Underdog liking Cincy. A few people liking the Bengals here. I can understand that, but the sides make me very, very uncomfortable. Either team is just bad. Let's move on to the Buccaneers at Ravens. Open Ravens -6. Now -8 across the board. Now remember, I should have mentioned this off the top. My opening lines are always bet online because they come out to the market first, and I respect that very much. And it's a dangerous situation they get put in coming out to the market first, and we can talk about that a little bit later. Total opened up 47.5, now mostly 47s, a couple 46.5s. As we talked about earlier, Ravens coming off a very tough game. Overtime loss to the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson finished with 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jackson also had 71 yards rushing in his fourth start in place of Flacco. He did hurt his ankle late. RG3 came in, but they say that Lamar will be fine. Ravens were poised to win this game. NFL's top-ranked defense twice allowed the league's highest-scoring offense to convert on first down. The first was a 4th and 9 at the Chiefs' 40. The second one was a 4th and 3 at the Ravens' 5. Bucs are coming off a tough 28-14 home loss to the Saints. I knew a lot of people's with using stat-based breakdowns and only numbers into a system really like the Bucs last week. And we saw the Saints get steamed late, and I stayed off of the side, but we did both cash, Donnie, on that under. It was a great call. Then the Bucs looked like they're rolling in this game and then outscored 25-0 in the second half. This is a team that just can't be trusted. It seemed like everything was going their way, and then they fell apart. They're dealing with a ton of injuries. We know Deshaun Jackson out. Godwin started in his place. Andrew Adams started in the place of safety Justin Evans. And Carlton Davis, cornerback, was replaced by Ryan Smith. It just seems like week after week after week, this Bucs team is losing players. Buccaneers at Ravens, pretty big home favorite here. What are you thinking, Donnie?
Yeah, you know what? And again, here comes into another scheduling conflict that you have, which I think is going to play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, look, Baltimore went on the road. That's tough. You're on the road, in a tough environment. You probably should have won the game. Some freak plays go against you by some freaky talented players on Kansas City. You end up losing in overtime, but you show no wear from that football game. What I mean by that is I don't think the Ravens were going in devastated that they didn't come out with a victory in Kansas City. It's one of those games that we talked about early in the year, Jimmy, New England. When Kansas City went in New England and goes, you know what? We just went toe-to-toe with a team that probably can win the world championship. We feel pretty good about that. And look how they propelled their season. I think each week that goes by, the Ravens are learning something new about themselves. You're getting a rookie quarterback in there that's managing the game plan exactly the way they want it and keeping his team in position to win games on the road and at home. I think I can't wait till Flacco gets healthy, and if they can somehow integrate both of these guys into the offense, it's going to add another added dimension. But I love what I'm hearing out of the Baltimore Ravens. Let's take a look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Game last week, steamed up late, getting 9.5 by game time. What a great pick if you're going to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sitting here watching that game as the updates come through, I'm like, they're going to win this game outright, not even need the points. We always said all week how much New Orleans struggled. And my goodness, it was like just a strip mine in the second half where that lead just evaporated. And if you had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you got to be a little bit salty that not only did they win the game, they actually didn't even cover the spread for you there, ended up losing by 14. But the Buccaneers in another interesting spot. What are the Buccaneers like, Jimmy? Not a very good defensive team. They play in tropical sunny Florida. And let's not remember, 4 out of their last 5 games have been played in Florida, in Tampa Bay, including their last 3 straight. So when you take a look at the teams they played, Washington Redskins, their defense was okay when they played them at the time. The Giants, very soft defense. San Francisco, very soft defense. Carolina, as we see, very soft defense. And New Orleans last week. You're now going to go on the road, and Tampa Bay is out of it. Ravens are chomping at the bit in here, and now you're going to be home for over a month in Florida. Go out and play in some windy, colder conditions against a lights-out defense. Let's see what Jameis can do in this. Can he run around versus this Baltimore team? Can he make scramble plays against this Baltimore team? I don't think so. I think the Ravens punched them in the mouth this week, Jimmy.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you're right, and I think that this would be one of the rare cases, for me at least, that I should jump on it early in the week, because I do not think a -8, even though it's a high spread, will be around here on Friday. What do you think, Donnie?
For what, the total? We're just talking about where the line movement's going to end up.
Where the line move will go.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting watching because I know some people are is RG3 going to get in it? Look, I think the kid's going to be okay, Lamar Jackson, and he doesn't have to run around and run it 25 times. This offense is good enough where if you just make your reads and make the defense think you're still going to run the football, they got a hell of a running game running up the middle. If I'm looking right now to see the 8s across the board, I don't know how much higher it's going to go because you're still looking at Tampa Bay playing some teams really competitively. They have some weapons out there, and there's no style points in the NFL. So I think it's going to stay around that 8 range. I will be surprised if it gets gassed up to 9.5 like we saw last week. I think it stays right around this number, but I think this is a double-digit win by Baltimore. Maybe not a blowout from the beginning, but just one of those games, Jimmy, where that Baltimore team just leans on you, and Tampa Bay at the end of the game is like, look, no more. You're up 10 points. Just run this clock out and let's get out of here.
I also feel after this breakdown that the under will be in play. The Buccaneers might not get a lot of points in this cold weather outdoor stadium. Well, I know they play in an outdoor stadium, but cold weather outside against a Ravens defense that is very strong. What do you think about the total here? Open up 47.5. It's only down a half point to a point in all the books.
Yeah, no, and when you take a look at it, Jimmy, how do you really, if you want to crush Tampa Bay typically on the season, you're going to hit them vertically, right? Forget about the running game. You're just going to throw all over that secondary. Not what Baltimore does, but the good part about it is Tampa Bay doesn't have a great rush defense, giving up almost 5 yards a carry. So that means the Baltimore Ravens are going to score in this football game, but they'll do it methodically. They'll hand it off up the middle. They'll use 3 downs for every 10 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards. Eat that clock up as they go down the field. And Tampa Bay is not going to have free run out here. I know Tampa Bay can score and they can do this and that, but they're not going to have free reign on the road this week where they're just going to be able to air it out against Baltimore. I like under the total in this game. I think you're in the right direction.
I do too. I think this is great work. I think we're accomplishing some great stuff. I think this could be an easy double up in this game. Buccaneers at Ravens. Let's move on to Cowboys at Colts and spend a little bit of extra time on this game, Donnie. Open Colts -2.5. Now you can get -2.5. Oh, so open Colts, Open Colts -2.5 at -130. Now you can get -2.5 between -115 and -120. You can get -3s between +105 and -105. Total opened up 45.5. Now a couple of 46.5s, mostly 47s. Colts are coming off a very impressive 24-21 win at Houston. Stopped the Texans' 9-game streak. It was a big bounce back after being shut out by the Jags the week before. T.Y. Hilton was magnificent. Andrew Luck threw for 399 yards. Colts sacked Watson 5 times. Very impressive. Colts right guard Mark Lewinsky was carted off to the locker room with an ankle injury. That could be a big loss for the Colts. Cowboys coming off a big 29-23 overtime win over the Eagles. Prescott threw for 3 TDs to Amari Cooper. Overcame 2 interceptions and a lost fumble that set a career high in completions, attempts, and yards passing at 455. Cooper finished with 217 yards receiving on 10 catches. Unbelievable stuff from these two. Unbelievable stuff from this Cowboys team. But this is a very tough game. Cowboys at Colts. Any early feels or angles, Donnie?
Yeah, I love the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not strictly talking about this game. I love the Dallas Cowboys. I really like what they're doing. Leaning on a strong offensive line. Zeke Elliott has been amazing this year with his durability. Amari Cooper, one of the better in-season trades you're probably going to see, which pains me as an Eagles fan. Gave up a first-round pick. He's performing every bit of that first-round action. And a defense that has been incredible out there. Here's the problem that you're going to run into again, which the NFL, it's interesting how this happens because this is a lot more often happening this week than any other week during the year. Last 3 games for the Dallas Cowboys, who are a really good home team, Jimmy. At home versus Washington, at home versus New Orleans, at home versus Philadelphia. Now you're going back out on the road. A huge win last week for the Indianapolis Colts. Here's what's going against the Dallas Cowboys a little bit. Was it a big emotional win? Against the Philadelphia Eagles, you finally put them pretty much to bed. You're going to win the division. Yes, it was. But now you're going on the road against a real formidable opponent. But let's not forget, Ezekiel Elliott, which I do see is upgraded to probable, which no doubt in my mind he is. He touched the ball 40 times last week in an overtime game, in a divisional game, physical football game. Looked like he got a concussion. They're blaming it a neck injury at this point. Came back in, gutted it out. So he is going to be, a little bit sore heading into this football game on the road. Second part, one of the best linemen in the league overall, Zack Martin, the guard, left that football game, got an MRI, banged out a little bit, banged up a little bit. We don't know if he's going to go. That's 2 major downgrades. And you're going on the road playing against a team that it looks like pressure doesn't fluster this team with Frank Reich. Dallas Cowboys have a fantastic front four that gets pressure on just about everybody, but Andrew Luck seems to be bucking that trend, saying against the Jacksonville Jaguars, against the Houston Texans, it's not really mattering out there, and they can move the football versus anybody. I think this number is cheap right now, and a lot of people lining up on the Dallas Cowboys, but hey, why not, right? Big win streak. They look good. They're playing good defense. It's not a letdown game because I don't even think this game even is going to factor. Dallas Cowboys are going to win the NFC East. The Indianapolis Colts absolutely need this football game, but that game last week that they played, so physical, overtime football game. Tailback got 40 carries in that game. Zack Martin might be down, might be a little bit too much to overcome. Early in the week, Jimmy, looking at those Colts right now, I think they can win this football game, and you only need 3. You only need to win by 3.
I think that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. In the chat, agreeing. Nico says, lock of the week. Boys fat and happy. Have division in hand. Pick Colts -2.5. Troy V liking the under. 7 Eli says Colts lock of the week. Interesting, and I like the angle very, very much that you've broken down. Do you have any feel on this total, Donnie, that's opened at 45.5, being bet up to 47?
You know what? When you're looking at the Dallas Cowboys, you're normally saying under, but now that they're clicking a little bit on offense, Amari Cooper looks good out there. It's going to extend it. You don't have a great defense overall. And the Colts have played a lot better than I thought they would play this year on defense. Don't get me wrong. Their statistics against the run, very good. But the Dallas Cowboys are going to press that, especially if Zeke Elliott, even though he's had 40 carries, he should be able to get his. Dak Prescott's a mobile quarterback. He should be able to make plays. And Amari Cooper playing like a top 5 wide receiver again in the NFL. Then you flip it over to the Indianapolis Colts. They've played tough defenses. It's funny. Like last week, they put up some decent numbers, 24 points versus the Houston Texans. But the week before, they got shut out against a good defense on the road. At home, they should be able to put up points here in this environment. T.Y. Hilton was amazing last week with a banged-up shoulder. Now, Jones is an awesome corner. Top 3, top 4 cornerback in the NFL right now for the Dallas Cowboys. It's in a dome. You got weapons all over the place. 2 quarterbacks that look like they're finally slinging it around. I would lean actually over in this game, Jimmy, to be honest.
Wow, interesting breakdown. Jaden TV says, I'm betting everything I got on the Cowboys. Trust me, the Zeke will run hard in that stadium. Cowboys and Rams both win big. Troy V saying Colts D, very underrated. West Coast saying Colts in a shootout. This is very exciting. This is a very exciting game we're going to be able to bang out
Great one.
all week long. Let's move on to Lions at Bills, and we can talk about how difficult it is to be first to the market like BetOnline is. BetOnline opened Lions minus 2.5 on Sunday night. In less than an hour, it was a pick'em, and in an hour after that, it was Bills minus 2.5. Donnie, that's a 5-point swing in an hour and 43 minutes. The total opened at 38.5. A couple books are hanging 38.5. Most are at 38. We easily hammered that over Bills Jets last week. It was very easy. I'm very curious if you think this might be along the same lines. Bills are coming off a tough 27-23 loss at the Jets. Josh Allen did not look good. Threw 2 interceptions, lost a fumble. His second interception sealed the loss. It was not a great performance in the air. 18 of 36, 206 yards. But he also had 101 yards rushing. Second quarterback in NFL history to top 90 yards in 3 consecutive games. Buffalo down to their third-string running back, Marcus Murphy, after McCoy was sidelined with a hamstring injury in the first quarter. Chris Ivory hurt his ankle in the third quarter. Also, Matt Milano was carted off starting linebacker. Matt Milano carted off the field after getting his leg tangled up. Bills, undrafted rookie Robert Foster, 104 yards receiving in his first career start. Bills released Kelvin Benjamin. Detroit has lost 5 of 6, but that was a very easy 17-3 win at Arizona. I was on the Lions. I thought we broke that game down very well. Detroit was hit hard by injuries in this game. In the span of 3 plays, they lost Ezekiel Ansah to a knee injury, Deshaun Hand to a shoulder injury. Those are 2 defensive ends. They lost right tackle Robert Wagner to a concussion, lost fullback Nick Bellore to an ankle injury, receiver Bruce Ellington to a hamstring injury, cornerback Marcus Cooper to a back injury, safety Charles Washington to a hamstring injury. So we've got to do a lot of follow-ups on what's going on this week for the injuries on the Lions side of things. But what do you think about this massive market move in an hour and 43 minutes, Donnie?
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills should win this football game, but here's the problem. Last week they dominated the New York Jets in that football game. Jets got like 3 big kick returns in that game. Josh Allen dropped a fumble early in the game, and they missed 2 field goals. The Buffalo Bills destroyed the Jets last week and actually lost the game outright, which you can fathom that. But here's the problem. First drive of the game, you lose Shady McCoy in that game, so he's out. Chris Ivory, another banging, good running back. He might miss this football game, be out. So you're right. They're down to their 3rd string. Best player on defense, last drive of the football game. He goes down with a broken leg, Matt Milano. So he's going to be removed from this game. So you say, whoa, I saw Detroit last week, beat the Arizona Cardinals on the road. They should be game for this one. Detroit was horrific in that football game on the road versus a very poor football team, Arizona. And you brought up the key ingredient again from their side of it. Injuries. Detroit is injured. And if you're an injured football team that's not going to the playoffs, you know what you usually do? You tend to say, you know what? Let's not force these guys back in the issue because you're looking at really good football. Ezekiel Ansah is not going to play this week, so he's going to be out, your top pass rusher. Kerryon Johnson, are you going to rush this kid back who's built on speed when you're going nowhere in this football game or this year? He's probably not going to make it back. Bruce Ellington, your slot receiver who banged up his hamstring, are you going to rush him back this weekend? Let's not forget about even defense. Deshaun Hand has been amazing this year. He's not going to play in this football game either. And then you take a look at your tackle, Rick Wagner, who got a bad concussion and had to be carted off in that football game. Are we rushing this guy back to play in a meaningless football game versus the Buffalo Bills? So both of these teams going through massive injuries. Josh Allen's a pretty good quarterback. If you watch him play, Jimmy, it's amazing how fast and athletic this kid actually is. Throws for over 200 last week, runs for over 100 yards. But he doesn't have much to work with now. If you said, you know what, Donnie, Shady McCoy and Ivory are going to play in this game, they're going to handle the ground game, we can work some play action passes in, I would agree. But this game is baffling me right now because my first instinct looking at it, I want to jump right on the Buffalo Bills again. But then you're down even more weapons than you had last week when you didn't have that many to begin with. It's an interesting game to break down, but both of these teams extremely banged up. Might have to wait till later in the week to see what's what here.
That's exactly what we need to do. And thankfully, we have this show again on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Jaden TV says this game smells under. With all these injuries, volatility increases enormously. Do you have any feel on the total? We do have to keep a brisk pace.
Yeah, we'll keep a brisk pace, Jimmy. And again, let's play the same game. Buffalo in 37, 38, 39 range. We're going to go auto bet over on that game. They will get the total.
I think so, too. Even with the injuries, I think it can.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. Buffalo nixes everything there. Great defense. Doesn't matter. No weapons on offense. Every week they're going over the total 37. Every week.
Got to spend a couple extra minutes on this game. Big game. Packers at Bears love this rivalry. Open Bears -4, instantly bet up -5.5. There are even 6s on the board now. Total open at 46.5. Now mostly 45s, although you can still find a 45.5. Bears coming off a very impressive 15-6 win at home over the Rams. Bears bounce back from a wild overtime loss at the Giants, won for the 6th time in 7 games. Their defense is scary. Mack and Akeem Hicks, sacks. Roquan Smith, Prince Amakamara, Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller, interceptions. Chicago looks dangerous, even with shaky, sketchy stuff from Trubisky. Packers coming off an easy 34-20 home win over the Falcons. A lot of people questioning my belief in this team, and you're absolutely right. They've been mistakes. I've made mistakes throughout the season, and I'm not afraid to mention them. I've made mistakes back in these Falcons in a couple spots, especially the last 2 weeks. Although we did hit with that over, Donnie. I love that bet. That was a great spot. Aaron Rodgers threw 2 touchdown passes. They get a win. The Packers get a win with the interim head coach Joe Philbin. Rodgers 21 for 32 for 196 yards. Who cares if he's not throwing interceptions, Donnie? 21 for 32 for 196 yards is bad. Can the Packers do anything offensively in Chicago on Sunday?
You know, it's interesting because normally you'd look at this game and be like, you know what, Green Bay getting points, it's Aaron Rodgers, and we have to shake that thought out. You have to just clean that up, because if you watch last week and you watch the Atlanta game, on its face, you go, man, the Green Bay Packers really blew them out. Well, that was more a product of Atlanta being really bad on offense, throwing pick sixes, and getting 75 penalties against them whenever they finally got something going. Matt Ryan fumbles. It all went wrong, because when you break it down, you just see the score. Wow. Aaron Rodgers and that offense really got it together, but they really didn't. That's a terrible quitting defense for the Atlanta Falcons. 138 yards on the ground, 162 in the air. And the key ingredient is I didn't watch all the way through the second half to get the final stats, but Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers were under siege from the pass rush from Atlanta. Think about that. They're Atlanta, cold weather, built for the dome, soft football team, was getting in there repeatedly and ruffling the feathers of Aaron Rodgers last week. What do you think is going to happen in Chicago this week when that front seven sets its eyes on Aaron Rodgers and that banged-up offensive line? Aaron Rodgers is great, don't get me wrong. He has one wide receiver and nothing else. Clamp down on Devontae Adams, slow him down, and Aaron Rodgers will get buried in an avalanche. It's a sharp play, I know, to take the Packers with the points. I want no piece of it, because he might not make it out of this football game. The Green Bay Packers front line is going to get beat up so bad by the Chicago Bears. In this game early in the week, Chicago or nothing. They are going to bury Aaron Rodgers in an avalanche in this game.
I think so as well. Total opened up at 46.5. It's been bet down slightly, mostly 45s. What do you think of that total?
I like the under. I like the under in this game, because you say, well, wait, Aaron Rodgers, they can get it going. Their defense is bad. You need an offense that's going to be able to move the football a little bit, which I think Aaron Rodgers will be able to. They're not going to hit off big play after big play after big play on the Bears. But in order to hit an under, you actually need some offense from both of these teams, meaning you get the ball in the 25 and you don't 3 and out yourself or go backwards. You get 1, 2, 3 first downs, you stall it at the 50, you punt it down to the 5, and the other team does it back to you. I think this game plays very well to an under, because the Bears aren't in a mode where we're just going to blow you out and that's what we want to do. Their eyes are set on winning the division. They want to play really good defense and not turn the football over. That lends to an under for me in this game.
Eddie Orley says, right on, Donnie. I was thinking the same thing exactly. But my man Jay Peach comes in and says, in my opinion, Packers is a play. Rodgers will prove a point to himself and himself only. I think that is just a vividness bias that I have with the Falcons. The same thing going on with a lot of Packers fans. Jaden TV says Rodgers loves to play in Chi-Town. I don't think he will this Sunday. Let's move on to Titans at Giants. Open Giants -3, now -2.5 across the board. Total open at 42.5, now 43.5 across the board. Titans are on extra rest, extra preparation after that easy 39 win over the Jags last Thursday. Titans stayed in the AFC playoff contention with their 4th straight win. Derrick Henry set a franchise record with 238 yards, 16 carries, with 4 TDs. It was very impressive. Mariota had tape on the back of his right hand, threw for 162 yards. Titans outgained the Jags 426-55. They had some issues, though. Jonnu Smith hurt his knee. Also, Tajay Sharp hurt an ankle. Another receiver, right tackle Jack Conklin, hurt a knee, did not return. Giants are coming off a dominant 40-16 win over the Redskins. Barkley gashed that Redskins defense. Manning looked good again. This Giants team is playing better. I tripled up on that spot, but this seems a lot more trickier, a lot more moving parts in this spot. What are you thinking here, Donnie? Titans at Giants?
Yeah, it looks like a typo, doesn't it? You say, wait a second. I mean, Giants don't really have much to play for. And I just saw the Tennessee Titans were in the thick of the playoff race, and you're going to hang a 2.5 out there. And we're not even laying 2.5. So we're going to be getting points here. It seems easy, but let's go take a look at what Tennessee's done on the season, especially on the road. At Miami, lost to open the season. 9-6 winner at Jacksonville. You lost to the Buffalo Bills on the road. You went over in Great Britain. You lost that game 20-19. You played the Dallas Cowboys, one of those anomaly games that you beat them 28-14. You get hammered by the Indianapolis Colts. You get hammered by the Houston Texans. And then you beat the Jets, who stink. And you beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, who look like they quit on the Thursday night game. You know who hasn't quit on the season yet, Jimmy? New York Giants. As long as Eli Manning can stay straight up in this game and it's not jailbreak city, I think the Giants are going to win this football game. That's the way I feel early in the week. It's one of those games where I like the direction what the Giants are doing. They are going to be in this football game. They have played well at home. And, they beat the Washington Redskins last week. It doesn't matter. You can only play the teams that are in front of you. They are giving a game effort every single week. And what shows you that the Titans can just come in and blow you out with Marcus Mariota on the road. Leading Giants early in the week, Jimmy.
I like that. What do you think of this total? We got to be quick, but this total opened at 42.5, moved to 43.5, and Odell Beckham looks like he will be good to go.
Yeah, with the Giants, I just think that it's going to tend to play to an over because Eli Manning is going to throw some questionable balls up, which could be intercepted or not. And it seems like he's more under control when he doesn't have Odell Beckham out there, but he should have Odell Beckham. But that's one to keep an eye on. The Giants need Odell Beckham in this game to open up because the defense between Tennessee and the Washington Redskins right now, night and day. Tennessee's going to bring it. They'll need some options out there. I look over in this game. I don't think the weather's going to be too bad in East Rutherford this weekend. 43.5 seems doable. Both these teams playing to the 20s. I can see it happen.
Interesting. I think so, too. It's going to be fun breaking this game down throughout the week. Redskins at Jags. Let's try and get through this quickly. Open Jags -7 now, almost all -7s, couple -7.5, some plus money. Total open so low, Donnie. Understandably so, 36 stayed. Jags are on extra rest, extra preparation after that terrible loss on Thursday. Jags came in with the league's 5th best scoring defense after shutting out Andrew Luck. But Jacksonville susceptible against the run, 16th, giving up 108.4 yards, and they got gashed in that game against the Titans. Redskins were destroyed. Sanchez, as a lot of us said, fell apart. 6 for 14, 38 yards, 2 picks. Didn't have a completion longer than 10 yards. And then in comes Josh Johnson, somebody I don't know much about. Redskins' 4th quarterback this season. Hadn't appeared in an NFL game since 2013 or throwing the passes 2011, and he looked okay. 11 for 16. I know it was garbage time. 195 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Ran for 45 yards. Donnie, Redskins at Jags. How ugly is this matchup, and do you have any angles?
It's like the toilet bowl here. And I want to just try to say, like, maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars haven't quit, which they clearly quit last Thursday night, but maybe they actually pop on the tape this week and see Washington coming in and say which team actually quit worse and who really cares. Because at least on one side of the football, you don't have really a good quarterbacking combo on either side that we're looking at. But I think Jacksonville has the edge. At least they have some younger running backs, a semblance at this point of an offensive line, some real NFL wide receivers, and a defense when it wants to play can really clamp down. Because when you flip it over on Washington, we thought they had a defense with pride. They completely gave up in that game and got even more injured in that game. Now you have to say, hey, one of the better tight ends in the league, Jordan Reed, he does his annual exit from the season and gets hurt. So who are we running the football with? An old man Adrian Peterson? Or who are we throwing the football to? And who's even throwing the football for the Redskins? And we're going on the road? That's like the triple threat right there. If Jacksonville can't win this game by 7 points or more, everybody has to go down there. Everybody.
I think that's a good breakdown. I think that is the spot. What about this total? And as quick as possible, we got to rush through these last couple.
Over, because I think Washington has no semblance of an offense. You saw it last week. You just get a quarterback that can run around and throw it up in the air. You'll get interceptions. You'll get fumbles. And Jacksonville just should be able to beat down this Washington team. 36 in the NFL. I don't even care who's out there. We're going over the total.
I like it, and it's been working. I've been following it very closely. I've been betting almost all of them, and it has been working. Let's move on to Cardinals at Falcons. Go quick here. Open Falcons -9 now, a mix of 8.5s and 9s. Total open at 44 stayed. Falcons coming off that ugly loss at Green Bay. Matt Ryan, though, 28-42, 262 yards. He played pretty well. Cardinals coming off that 17-3 home loss to the Lions. Rosen just shows nothing week in and week out. But I got to stay away from backing the Falcons, and they're giant favorites. It does not look good to me. Do you have any angle here, Cardinals at Falcons?
It's hard. It's a lot. It's a lot of points to give the Arizona Cardinals just because it's the Atlanta Falcons and what are they really playing for? But they do have some. I mean, Matt Ryan, say what you want. He's not going to quit. Julio Jones isn't going to quit. Their offense should be okay. But if you're just going to say like Atlanta stinks, and I understand that, but you really want to bet Arizona, like when you have a football team that barely can move the football against anybody, sometimes just taking the points doesn't work for me. It's Atlanta or nobody, but what a bad game. So I don't think I'm going to be on it either way, but I'm certainly not backing Arizona in any spot. I can't. At least like Atlanta can wake up on offense and get some first downs and have some big plays. Arizona can't do that. So.
Yeah, Gregos 007 saying, who has motivation here? We'll hammer this game a lot more on the Friday show. We'll also have Whale Capper with us. So we'll put more work into this game, find an angle, maybe make it enjoyable to watch. Very difficult to think of it being enjoyable. Let's move on. Let's let my man Timmy Wynn get us rolling here. He says, I am on Seattle -5.5. I'm going to the game and hammering it. Seattle at San Francisco. Open Seahawks -4.5. Now a mix of -5.5s, -6s. Total open at 44.5. Still a couple of 44.5s, but mostly 44s. Niners coming off a nice 2014 win at home over the Broncos. Kittle fell 4 yards short of Shannon Sharp's NFL record with 214 yards receiving by a tight end. Mullins connected on 8 of his first 12 throws, 124 yards, wound up 20 of 33 for 332 yards and a 102.1 rating. He's been a lot better than I expected him to be. Seahawks are on a short week after that big win last night over the Vikings, moved to the brink of wrapping up a wild card spot in the NFC. One win is all they need in the final 3 games. San Francisco, Arizona on the docket shouldn't be difficult. Wilson looked terrible through the air, but still got the job done. Seattle's running game was rolling. Any early leans, Seahawks, Niners, Donnie?
Yeah, it looks easy to take the Seahawks in this one, but you're right. You're coming off of a Monday Night Football game. You're going in the road, maybe a sleepier environment. You're laying what? Opened up at 6.5, but some outlets should be showing 5.5. So if you're looking at that sharp line move, it's certainly going to the San Francisco 49ers. But sometimes you don't want to take too much out of the week before. Like, it was a 20-14 win. The way some people were talking about the Niners, you might have thought they won like 46-10 and really ran away with the football game. Seattle's built for these games. I mean, you're going to run the football. They pasted the 49ers, and I know you can't take a look at that a couple weeks ago. I think Seattle's going to win this football game, but I'm undecided on which way I want to lean in this game. Maybe see an injury report. Can I get Matt Breida back if I'm the 49ers in this game? But Seattle's playing really well, so it's kind of hard to step in front of that at this point now. So not a great read early in the week, Jimmy. I
don't have a great read early. I do fear these kind of spreads with a road favorite and try to stay away from them. Any early angle on an over?
I would lean over because I think Seattle's going to be able to move the football in this game. I think there'll be a lot more opening spots for them to score points as opposed to going against Minnesota. And Kyle Shanahan, a pretty good play caller. They're going to dial up some plays that work. You saw in the last game, even though they were getting blown out, they showed some semblance of a passing game with not many wide receivers. And we know Goodwin is back in the game. Kittle looked really good last week. Another game under Nick Mullins' belt. I lean over in this game, Jimmy.
Now we have a very exciting spot. Patriots at Steelers. And they've just released some lines. Bet online. So this wasn't even available before I came to the show. So this is within the last half hour. Bet online has a -1 for the Patriots, a -120, or a +1 at +100. Let's take a quick look at what they have for the totals in this game. Just announced here, 52 already being bet up at Bookmaker to 52.5. Very interesting. I was very curious to see what would happen. Brady threw for 358 yards, 3 scores, but the Patriots were stunned. And their 5th time losing in their past 6 visits to Miami. Steelers coming off a shocking loss to Oakland. Both teams coming off shocking losses, but for different reasons. Pittsburgh got nothing from their running game. 40 yards on 19 carries by Ridley. Roethlisberger with the ribs. I guess that's why they were waiting before giving out a line. He expects to play. I expect him to play. Also, James Conner, ankle injury. Mike Tomlin has left the door ajar for him to play this week. Jin Kang says, easy, take New England. Any early feels on this Patriots-Steelers game, Donnie, that we will hammer much harder on Friday?
Yeah, real quick on this New England-Pittsburgh game, beware of those New England Patriots on the road. It's not always what it looks like. Every game looks so easy for them to win on the road, and somehow they just continually lose and lose and lose, and beware of the wounded animal that the Pittsburgh Steelers are. Fire Mike Tomlin. Get rid of this whole team. They stink. They can't come up big. They can't do anything. Beware of the wounded animal at home. That line looks really short when it opens up. The favorite of New England, 72% of the early wagers coming in on New England. And why not take New England, right? But they are on the road.
I hear that. I think the Steelers could have certainly seem early in the week that they have a ton of value. And we know that the Patriots are going to be steamed. I do believe that they're going to want to cut this video out, even though it was off the board early. And maybe I can convince them to use our Friday cut on the Patriots Steelers. But for the next couple of days, if this video does exist, are you going to find a way to back the Steelers, Donnie?
I don't know if I'm going to find a way to back the Steelers, but I'm going to try to see like some add-ins. How hurt has Ben Roethlisberger, because he's a big fibber most of the time. He has shoulder injury. He can't even lift his arm, but he's throwing 60-yard darts all over the place. I just find it interesting in this game how that line opened up, and I like a team under siege who absolutely has to win this football game to make the playoffs and keep their lead in the division over the Baltimore Ravens, where maybe the New England Patriots look at it and say, yeah, maybe that 1 or 2 seed's not up for grabs, but we're going to win the division. We'll get a home playoff game. We're more important to get rested and ready. But there is a massive coaching advantage here between Bill Belichick and Mike Tomlin. We'll see how that plays out this week.
Without a doubt. And getting an early, just to lead us into our study this week, Donnie, the total at 52. Do you have any early edge there?
I mean, when you're talking about these two quarterbacks here who can sling it, I mean, both of these defense theoretically are pretty good and they can rush the passer. But if I'm going to get Brady and Roethlisberger, not really leaning towards an under here early in the week, Jimmy. I lean towards the over.
Let's get a quick weather check here in Pittsburgh. Weather. Let's see what we're looking at. Sunday, high of 43
not
Fahrenheit.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Rain on Friday, Saturday, but Sunday, high of 43, low of 32. Now, it's always exciting. We don't have a ton of time. Only 2 games left, so we're going a little late, but I'll get us out of this one. Eagles at Rams. I love hearing your Eagles breakdowns. Rams open at -8.5, now -9. It's across the board. I have to tell you, my very first instinct is that's way too many points. The Eagles can cover. Now, let's break this game down and not just use our first instinct. Total opened at 52. It's been bet up, 53.5. Bookmaker just hung at 54. Rams coming off that ugly 15-6 loss at Chicago. Missed a chance to secure first-round playoff bye. Fell into a tie with New Orleans for home field advantage to the NFC playoffs. Goff threw for career-high 4 picks, was sacked 3 times. Goff, 20 for 44, 180 yards, 19.1 rating. Todd Gurley ran for a season-low 28 yards. Eagles coming off a crushing overtime loss to the Cowboys. Wentz threw for 3 touchdowns, a pair of tying scores in the fourth quarter. They showed a lot of heart in that game. Running back Corey Clement injured his right knee. You'll have more information on that, I'm sure, than us. Also, Josh Sweat left in the first half with an ankle injury and didn't return. Donnie, can you send us into our study breaking down this Eagles at Rams? Is that too many points for the Rams? Can the Eagles cover?
It looks like too many points. I mean, when you look at the 9, you say, you know what, that's a lot. You see the Philadelphia Eagles, who outside of the New Orleans game, they're going to play you close. They played Dallas close. They lost in overtime. But here's the problem you're going to have. You know, you gave up like 550 yards to the Dallas Cowboys. This game would have been so much worse if Dak Prescott was an accurate quarterback, because they might have put up 650 yards and didn't turn the football over. So now you're going to come in and you're going to play the Rams, who, again, it's a back-to-back road game. So you're going to travel to Dallas and back. Then you're going to travel from Philadelphia to go up to Los Angeles, who lost a tough game on Sunday night and they want to rebound. So you're telling me in this game, I'm going to get a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. I'm going to get a better offensive line than the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to get better wide receivers overall than the Dallas Cowboys, and a better running back than Zeke Elliott. Where are the stops coming from for the Eagles in this game? If Sean McVay doesn't dial up like a 45 spot with 600 yards of offense, it's going to be pretty disappointing. Now, I know I'm being a little bit facetious with the overall yards number, but every level, including play caller with the Dallas Cowboys, to individual player on offense, it's all better on the Rams. So I'm sorry if I love the Eagles. I hope they fight. I hope they win. 9 points looks like a lot, but I'm just praying that the Eagles can get off the field and force punts in this game, Jimmy.
So does the over seem like a spot that you're very interested in early in the week?
No, because the Eagles were even lucky to get up and running. Because, I mean, look, when you look at the Rams overall as a defense, they have a really good defense now that they're healthy. 2 good cornerbacks, 2 good safeties, an elite pass rush. That's everything that wrecks the Philadelphia Eagles. So when you look and say 53.5, I'm automatically going to take that. There's a reason it opened at 54.5 at some outlets, and it's at 53.5. The Eagles shouldn't go up and down the field just, it's the Rams, and they're going to score a lot of points. No, the Rams have a formidable defense right now, and the Eagles aren't operating very well on offense.
Very exciting breakdown. I can't wait to hammer this throughout the week and then meet up again on Friday. Love your Eagles breakdown. Finally, we have the Monday Nighter, Saints at Panthers. Open Saints -6.5. pretty much stayed. There are 6s on the board. Total opened at 54.5, was bet down immediately. Couple of 52s, mostly 51.5s. Panthers have now lost 5 straight. Wow. Cam Newton not playing well. Passed for 265 yards, but made mistakes consistently throughout the game. Maybe he has a right shoulder injury, maybe not. Who knows? He badly missed Devin Funchess, intercepted by Randall with 57 seconds left. Made mistakes late. McCaffrey had 2 TD runs for Carolina, but just finished with 101 total yards. Everything's going down for the Panthers. Drew Brees threw for 1 touchdown, ran for another, but I was extremely impressed with their comeback against the Buccaneers. They were down 11 points at halftime, outscored the Bucs 25-0 on the road. Brees 24 for 31, 201 yards. Michael Thomas had a good game. He's had a couple low statistical games in a row. A week after being held to a season low 176 yards, they started slowly again, but showed a lot of life coming back. Saints at Panthers. Can Saints win another one on the road here, Donnie? And can they cover this big line?
Yeah, it's a division game. It's on the road. Dome team going outdoors. I can see that. Struggled a little bit with Tampa Bay, back-to-back road games. But it's hard to take Carolina. Like, I wish I could get some truth here and be like, which Cam we get? Cam, are you going to be really excited for Sunday? Or are you going to pout and worry more about your outfit than actually playing the football game? Because I lost some good money on the over last week in that Cleveland Browns game. And that was because of overall Cam Newton himself, where you're the biggest, strongest quarterback. You guys can run the football at will. But for some reason on 3rd and goal from the 2, you go fastball mode like you're Sandy Koufax and just throw the ball into the second row 5 straight times, and you end up losing that football game. I can't trust Cam Newton because I think he's completely checked out at this point, and shoulder injury, no shoulder injury. If I can't get a competent effort out of my quarterback, and even though Carolina does play really well at home, early in the week I'm trying to find a way to take the New Orleans Saints in this game. But I know later in the week you'll start saying, like, wait a second here, it's a lot of points. You know, Carolina can do some things that the Saints don't want to defend. But it hurts when you get your money put on a game where you know that quarterback checked out and you're like, I can't believe I did it to myself again. So maybe a little bit of gun shyness in this game.
I can understand that. I was on that over as well. I have been given a note that we don't actually have to get through this game in less than a minute. It is a Monday nighter, so we can break it down a little further. Donnie, you agree with this total move going from 54.5 down to 51.5?
I do, because it has a lot to do with what we're looking at now from the New Orleans Saints, because this is no longer the team that plays really crappy on defense and airs it out all over the place. They can control you on the ground. They can throw short control passes on 3rd and 2 instead of going play action and throwing deep. They bring in Taysom Hill, and he just is able to rumble for 3 or 4 yards to keep that clock going. And when you look at overall at the Carolina offense, they do have some big playability. But with Cam Newton's quote-unquote shoulder injury, it's not a lot of deep shots downfield. It's more McCaffrey working between the tackles, dump offs into the flats, some slip screens or rocket screens to the wide receiver. So I do agree with the game more or less going over, because even look at the last couple games. I mean, they throttled Philadelphia, but only gave up 7 points. Atlanta, 31-17, that's 48. Dallas, 13-10. 28-14 against a Tampa Bay team that you think doesn't play very much defense. So I think it's more on the underlines than the over in this one.
I like that breakdown. A lot of people uncomfortable backing Cam here. Eddie Euler says, I'd like the Saints a lot more if it was 4 or 5. Donnie, when we're given an extra couple minutes, which is a relief, I would like to ask you a couple questions maybe moving forward.
Yeah.
Let me ask you quickly this. NFC, you like the Saints or the Rams right now moving forward?
It's going to be the home field advantage team, and that's going to be the New Orleans Saints, because I think the Saints are going to end up winning out, and they got a nice little break there that the Chicago Bears did end up beating the Rams. I just think when you get down in that dome, it's such an advantage for the New Orleans Saints that they're going to be able to win it just by default being at home, because it would be a lot different. Let's just say if you roll reverse, Jimmy, you had the Bears as the best overall record, and you had New Orleans had to go on the road to play the Bears. I think the Bears would beat them. But we already saw that they beat the Rams already. If the Chicago Bears, they play really good defense, go down to the Dome, they're not built to go down to the Dome and play great offense and win that football game. It's the New Orleans Saints for me so far. It's been that way for a couple weeks also.
Very interesting. I like it. What about in the AFC? I know we're going to have a lot of time to talk about this moving forward, but Chiefs, Patriots, who you liking best out there right now?
It's still the Chiefs for me there, but I'm interested to see, because I just don't want to have New England sit at home, be the top seed, and just get a free pass every single year to the Super Bowl, because nobody can beat them at home, and they just get that spot by default. Because the Chiefs in Kansas City are going to be a really tough out. But there's 2 teams lurking in there, Jimmy, that can go on the road and put you to the test. Baltimore Ravens, Los Angeles Chargers. Those two teams are dark horses that I don't think it really matters where they play. Their style is going to travel. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But if I had to put my druthers on it right now, we know Kareem Hunt's not coming back, but just no catastrophic injuries for the Chiefs at home, even though Andy Reid has a tendency to choke. I think it might be too tough because that's a great home field advantage, especially in the playoffs if you're Kansas City.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful stuff, Donnie. I can't wait to bang these games out throughout the week and then come back on Friday with very clear plays and clear moves. I love working with you so much, but we don't have a show without the great cappers that join us, all you guys giving us great insights, being funny, making this so enjoyable. Thank you guys so much. It means the world to Donnie and I that you guys join us. Donnie, my friend, would you put a bow on this bad boy and send us into the week, into our study?
Yeah, Jimmy brings up a really good point in the chat. Like me and Jimmy, like it may not seem like, hey, we just come on and hang out for the air, but this is my third show of the day, almost 4 hours of airtime. Jimmy does the same exact thing, but we work all through the day. And sometimes you get on a show, it's like, man, we got to go an hour and a half, but the chat box makes it worthwhile. And I love to just talk things out because sometimes early in the week in the NFL, you say, well, we got a lot of things going on. It's later in the week. The minute we start this show, you get those juices invigorating. Like, chat box is flowing. Jimmy's throwing out information. We're countering points. What do we like in this game? That's what I like about the Audible, and that's what these shows do at SBR, so I can't say it enough. Support the shows, especially the live shows here. Come and say hello, get a retweet, information back and forth, because there's a lot of stuff in here, especially from the people in the chat box, that I use as well, that Jimmy uses as well, that anything that pops up, I didn't think about that. This guy's off. Hey, look at the game next week, which maybe we're just talking it through and don't think about it. So thanks so much for being a part of the show in the chat box. Support the live stuff here at sportsbookreview.com. All the people that work hard behind the scenes. For Jimmy the Bag, I'm Donnie Rightside. This is the Audible for Tuesday. Join us on Friday. Will Capper will be here. We'll grind it out, some Saturday football games to talk about. We'll have a lot of fun here. Thanks for tuning in, folks.